So,
Yeah, but so I just decided, fuck Castlevania.
And welcome to the
Um,
stream. we got a doozy there. That was a good start.
you finally got a good start when we just
Yeah.
saying fuck Castlevania.
But yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Of the ones that you've put there, I'm aiming for the top row. But again, the character I have is not well suited to that. But anyway, we're talking about other stuff. Welcome to the stream. Oh god, bagpipes. Adrian, please.
stream.
Stream! Oh yeah,
But
I can do my little I was so entertained by this. Nope.
oh, you're doing the screen again.
That's very silly.
Yeah, with the lane decker one, I decided like I'm gonna start in grayscale. Maybe that will help, and it does kind of help.
I that's what I ended up doing for one earlier as well. Is that tomorrow's one? No, tomorrow's is the cartoon one. It's the one after that. It's digital painting Tuesday.
Like I haven't given up. At least I've been working on it for 5 hours, and I haven't given up.
There you go. See, it's perseverance. Well, I for one think you will do a splendid job because you've done some really good digital paintings in the past. Whether or not circumstances will let you are a different matter, but art's like that sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry for the late start to the stream. My computer decided after a day of using the tablet that it didn't want to recognize the tablet, so I had to restart everything. But we're here now. Hence the panic cat. It's not really a cat. I've gotten worse at drawing cats. How is this the thing? I'm drawing cats deliberately every day, and I've got worse.
I think you're doing great.
Look at this!
To be fair, it's not like you've been consistently drawing cats in the same style every day.
But that's the
You've
point.
been explicitly doing very different cats in very different styles.
But I thought I could sort of triangulate the essence of cat if I drew it in lots of different styles.
I mean, I would argue you sort of have, because most people would look at that and go, yes, that's a screaming cat.
Yeah.
I mean, a hot dog with spikes in his head. Compared to
I
this,
mean,
which is definitely a cat.
Sometimes that's just what cats look like, Chris. I don't know what to tell you.
This is a cat. Look at it. That's a cat.
I mean,
Honestly.
arguably.
And I argue it is. These are also some mushrooms.
Mushies.
Christy is here. However, Christy is not audible or audioling. What? They're not speaking. Yeah, she cannot hear us nor speak, so we will communicate purely through scribbles, which is fine because, frankly, actually making sense of anything we say on these streams is tricky. Good mushies.
Good mushrooms do not eat.
Spend too much time on Discord. Right. Get rid of that. Just save space. Don't like invading on other people's corners of the screens. We have our own areas, so we've marked out locations. One stream we should swap places and it'll feel really awkward.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so
Project Via.
Project Via.
Yeah.
It's a thing. So last time we discussed the origins of Fame and Fortune and their importance to the plot, i.e. basically everything. And how they are beholden to various bits of Fey lore that they're trying to get around through legalese, and being tricksy.
Just the worst corporate lawyers, except they don't work for a corporation.
Yes.
Except our own.
Clowyers.
Clown,
Um,
clown liar, clown
Clown-
lawyers.
clown lawyers. The worst combination of things. I could probably think of worse. Mime-motivational speakers? Um,
Yeah, that's probably not ideal enough.
that's a different, that's not ideal because it's ineffective.
Yeah, it's not
Clown
like
lawyers.
the worst thing, it's just not really, useful.
Yes, we discussed that and its origins and consequences. Then we were given a prompt, which was to design something for something. I think we all had our own areas and a character or something.
Villains. I believe,
Villains.
for our own area.
Oh yeah, we had the idea of that the final boss of Fame and Fortune would essentially be a phase for each of the areas you helped screw over another area, and thus played into the hands of Fame and Fortune and what they're doing. And so theoretically, every area would have its own phase in the final boss, and that would be a thing that would be fun to design. Except the viaduct, because nobody knows what's going on with the viaduct.
Yeah, we should probably figure that out.
Do we have to? It could just be there.
I mean, it could just be there, but
I like
mean-
games that do leave mysteries.
You don't necessarily have to explain every aspect that comes up in a game. Final Fantasy manages to not explain what the hell is going on a lot of the time.
Pretty much, yeah. Even when it really should.
And
I guess
there are some things where it's just kind of like, especially if it's something where it's like it's not really that important that we know where this came from. Like, do we really need to know why chocobos have been domesticated instead of horses? Not really.
I mean, I guess it's also, it is already literally connected to everything, so don't need to, tie it into the plot as much to make it still feel connected.
If we don't need to make it feel connected, it connects.
Yeah.
Is the viaduct a giant MacGuffin?
Basically, we kind of come up with the idea that it is a deity, but it's a deity just by virtue of being.
Yeah. It is,
Is there a thesis about the viaduct somewhere hidden in the archives?
oh, for sure.
Yes.
78,000 at least. You have a big unexplained thing in the middle of the land. Of course wizards are gonna gravitate towards it.
Anyway, here's my rough proposal for a viaduct mimic.
Yeah. It's that mimic. Is it just as big as the viaduct?
Yep. It attaches itself to bits of the viaduct that don't have a thing. What's the word? Junction, I guess. And he goes, I'm the junction now.
That'd be even worse than the train mimic that we had in 16 Symbols.
Yeah, this is just the next step up. Then the next project will be like a planet mimic.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think in old D&D there was stuff for, this is a mimic inn.
Ooh.
Like, you go to the inn, bar, whatever, like you would on your normal adventure things, and no, you just walked into the mouth of the mimic.
And it's got like a kind of anglerfish sort of barmaid. It goes real deep. They deck their mouth out.
Yeah.
You'll be in there a while before you realise what's happened. Anyway, I like the idea of this mimic. I don't think it's hostile.
It's just there.
I think it just likes tricking people into walking on its back and then wandering off.
It's just a little annoying.
The little scamp.
Just a little scale.
And by little, I mean just absolutely enormous.
So big. Um.
Again, as a reminder, like here's a tree. There's a little forest down here. The scale. Right,
Oh,
yes.
you gave it little feetsies.
It's got little foots.
All tootsies.
God, that's just some Shadow of the Colossus shit right there.
Yeah, I was thinking this bit. That sort of scale, isn't it? It's kind of fluffy.
Just some fluff.
Just a bit of fluff.
That's how you know. How you should know. The stone bridge you're suddenly walking on starts to get fluffy, then you know.
Yeah, a bit soft underfoot. You can tell you've walked onto it because it'll start giggling when you walk on.
All the little silly bits thrown in.
Oh, welcome to Project VR. But yeah, I don't know what the actual sort of significance of the viaduct is outside of just being this thing that happens to connect a bunch of things together and contains a bunch of useful things. And maybe there is some sort of deep lore there, but it's not. I can kind of imagine that it's a bit like. Do you remember Death's Door?
Yeah.
Where when you get all the stuff, you open this thing and then there's an eye and it goes all weird.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called like the truth or whatever it is that you find. And there's no real explanation as to what any of that is.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there might be something like that in the game.
Yeah, I can see that.
But there is some strange sort of force that is in some way connected to the viaduct, and you can sort of scratch the surface of it, but you don't really learn anything. You just know that it's beyond you.
Yeah. I can imagine that, like, just this, like, very strange, unexplainable thing. You know, for theory crafters to have a bit of fun with.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta give them something.
Gotta give game theory something to play with.
Exactly.
You stared into the abyss, and the abyss decided to walk away. Like, fuck this, I was sleeping.
Yeah, but beyond that, I don't know. What are we gonna talk about today? We've sort of done. We've fleshed out Fame and Fortune a bit.
Yeah.
And their whole deal, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
I also drew Fame and Fortune, actually. Let's show that off. Why not?
Yeah, show off your art.
Where is it? I don't know where my own stuff is.
On Twitter.
It's on the Tweeter.
I mean,
There
it's
we
also
go.
in the Discord.
It is also in the Ds. That probably would have been faster, actually. Anyway, I drew. That was the first Rando Citoba.
Yes, they look
Let's
so
see.
good.
I wanted to do them first because I'm like that is just the perfect prompt for them.
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. They look so just little gremlins.
Because it's like they work well in that style, but also they would absolutely work as villains in the show. Like, just fits, you know, alongside, you know, the amoeba gangsters and Lobster Man.
Yeah,
It's
there's something just. I mean, they're clowns. There's something very comical about their design.
Yeah.
By nature of them being clowns, but also just, you know.
Also, because they were designed by somebody who was good at designing characters.
Uh,
On an unrelated note, hey, look at Buddy. This is the
No.
Wildermyth one with the little rat. So yeah, we sort of covered that. I guess the sort of the biggest we've sort of tried to work out bits of this, but like I guess the biggest open thing is the actual like big quests in the game, the things that you would do to either screw over or not screw over everybody else.
Yeah.
So that maybe that's something we should sort of think about today. Go over those a little bit more. To have the things they would like you to do, like crash a city for parts or steal a big engine or whatever, but also come up with the alternatives.
Like, what can the protagonist actually do?
Yeah. Or we could not, we could talk about something else. That's just my proposal.
I mean, it's...
Well, we've already got one of them. Sort of. So we've already sort of established that with the floating city, instead of getting the engine and getting it to whichever faction you've decided you want to give control of the floating city, you just sort of tell them, nah, let's just put it in a field somewhere and go on with our lives. I guess that's
I mean, like, okay, that's made me a thing to ask. What is the quote-unquote good end for the floating city? Like, is the good end that it crashes? Or is the good end that one, power rises above the other?
Well, the thing is,
we sort of established that the good end is we get to the we get to the pilot and have them gently put it down somewhere so that everyone can just leave.
Yeah, dissipate. I guess what's kind of interesting about the floating cities, the floating cities are kind of microcosm of the game as a whole. You have these factions who all want to kind of screw over the next faction, and you could side with one of them to screw over the next one, but that doesn't really further anything. So it's sort of like there's its own mini version of the big story of the game.
Yeah, it's on a smaller scale and also like far more direct to the player of like, let's just fuck these guys over.
Yeah. It's a character explicitly saying that.
Yeah.
And it's literally you arrive at this place, there's like a forked path that splits off in 3 directions, and depending on which one you went down, that's which group of people you meet first. Literally random.
Yeah, just no subtlety there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm imagining, just...
But that theoretically, hopefully, would be enough to maybe have the player twig that that's what's happening in the rest of the world. Because that's a little more buried, a little more subtle, or it would be if this game was made by people competent.
Are you calling us incompetent?
I mean... I'm mostly sitting here going, you're calling the wizard subtle?
But they've got their own different thing going on. I guess that's also another small microcosm of the Forest and the Wizards. That was the other thing I was thinking about, actually, was sort of in my head the way the progression of the game would work was, rather than just going, you wake up in the caves, you come out of the caves, go to the town, and now the world is your oyster. I imagine it's a little more compartmentalized than that. You sort of get to the town, and then from there you unlock maybe the forest and the wizards. And then you do a bit of stuff there, and then once you've done a bit of stuff there, you can then unlock the rest of the world. And it's sort of like
Yeah.
the game starts building. And because we got the back and forth of the forest people and the wizards and all that, that'd be a good sort of introductory sort of not quest, but exploration thing.
Yeah, I sort of imagined that, like, regardless of how we were doing the rest of the stuff, whether it was open world or linear or semi-linear, that at least the idea of the wizards is introduced pretty earlier, because they're sort of part of your tutorial, and then they just keep popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
you get to the wizard tower proper or not, that's probably at least a little bit later.
Yeah,
Once
maybe.
you've had some time to establish what normality is, and then we get to break it in half.
Yeah.
I guess,
and
yeah,
have it
you'll
slithered
have
around
like
the ground.
a bunch of the wizards. Maybe you'll keep seeing the wizard tower in the distance, and it's always in a different place whenever you look. But yeah, you know, you meet a bunch of wizards, and maybe you'll meet like a group of them traveling around or something. But then you also have the forest and the forest people and stuff like that, but you can't get to the middle with the city and all that sort of stuff yet. So you've got sort of like the bigger parts of those zones are still locked off, or the more important parts of those zones are still locked off.
Yeah, it's much more surface level in the beginning.
Yeah.
Until you get to a certain point. I mean, yeah, it is fun to, like, it's kind of open world, but it's more just, it's still a little bit locked off, because it does seem like a little bit weird of you get out of where you were somewhere in the cave, you go to the harbor, go into this world. And like, yeah, there's been some, there's been some introductions done, but that still feels a little bit big, especially as there's like very little like main quest at that point, other than find out what happened or whatever.
Yeah, I guess maybe you'd need like, well, we could have it quite simply as like, okay, well, in order to do the ocean, you need to find the snorkel MacGuffin. You know, something like that. So just a bit of exploration in the sort of a smaller area will give you access to things that will unlock the further world.
I imagine the ocean and the Golden City are kind of like later in the game, I imagine. Because they're... I don't know.
Yeah, I feel...
The Golden City definitely in the ocean is a little bit... I don't know, maybe like a deeper level.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe the deep ocean.
Yeah.
We could sort of have... Let's do a sort of rough itinerary. So start at caves. Or like tutorial cave. Tut caves.
The Tut caves.
This can open up the harbour, which can then open up sort of like bits of forest and wizards. And then some stuff happens.
I imagine the floating city is also sort of hard to get to on account of the fact that it's literally up in the sky.
Yeah, I don't know how... It feels late mid-game.
Yeah, I'm imagining it definitely like mid-game-ish. Of like... late enough that you have some kind of like flying device or there's some kind of mechanism to get you up there. But early enough that
Maybe
you're still interested in a whole three-way plot line revolving these different factions.
I feel like the late game stuff unlocks when you first get to heaven to life and death.
Yeah,
That's the sort
that
of...
seems right. When you first meet them.
I don't know. I think parts of the Golden City should be stuff that you can access earlier, if only to sort of get some of the stuff there going. Because we've got like Dark's.
Oh yeah.
Just
Volric.
entire asshole character who kills people for their armor.
Oh, I still haven't drawn properly. I need to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that maybe some of the later stuff in Golden City, definitely after we've done. I'm sure there's some things in all of the areas that you can only really get to if you're going the life and death route, and it's sort of helping them along.
I mean, there's definitely, like, levels to everything, but, like, just generally speaking, I think, like, most of the Golden City you explore late game.
Yeah.
Or later in the game. Like, maybe, there are some, like, things you can get to, like, you can get some quests started and stuff. But
you can probably only get to, like, the essentially the pauper areas, as it were.
Yeah.
Because it's like you are low on the totem pole. They think you're just not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And...
well, we did have the big gate.
Yeah.
Didn't we? The gatekeeper.
That seems like late game to me. You know?
I don't know how the floating city fits into this at all.
Somewhere in the middle there.
And I'm guessing also the sort of deeper caves.
Yeah.
You can get back to pretty soon.
I feel like, I mean, it's all, like I said, it's all kind of like there's levels to everything, but I feel like the harbor and the caves are kind of like, you get to explore them more in depth earlier than some of the other areas.
Yeah.
The harbor, because, that's where you start, so that makes sense if, you can get to, like, at least if you explore that area further, you can get exploring further.
Yeah.
And the caves because they're pretty connected to the harbor with, people going and from, and all the lizards and amphibians and such.
It might be one of those things where it's like, you start off in the caves, you find somebody who can give you a lift on a boat to the harbour, you go to the harbour, then you can go back to the caves at some point, but going through the caves unlocks a new area. Like, probably not the forest, you can probably get from the forest to the forest from the harbour. But maybe you have to go through the caves to get to another location.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining...
Because the viaduct's shut or something, and then when you get through, you can clear the viaduct, and then you can use that. Shortcuts, yay.
Because if we're in the caves at the start, and it's like, oh, we sort of hop into something, get taken over to the harbor, are we gonna get a lift on the mail truck?
Yay!
Yes, it's the first proper character you meet after the tutorial. It's just mail lizard.
God, that would be just a hilarious way for essentially fast travel. Like, we're gonna hitch a ride on the mail truck.
They'll be like Sam from Dishonored. You can have little chats with you as you go. Nice.
Yeah. Gives you like a more like, oh, this and this is going on in the harbor, and I came from the caves, and just gives you like surface level dialogue lore about the world.
Yeah. They are like the loading screen tip at the bottom, that they chat about.
I haven't been interacting with the wizards too much. They are weird folk.
Yeah.
So you're finally awake. No.
I'm now just imagining, like, you wake up in a cave, you do this, like, tutorial with, like, you know, the little wizards popping up as tutorials. You go through that little cave, and then just a little post bus stops in front of you. And the lizard opens the door. Do you need a lift? That's the funniest introduction.
I mean, I'll be fine with that.
You think you know what you're gonna get, but did you expect lizard in a post bus? If the answer is yes, then why?
Oh, that's just. Oh, God, what was the name of those stories? With the little animals in the cars.
Wacky races, no. Wind in the Willows. There's Toad in a car.
Oh, there was a. I can distinctly see one of the cars in it, and it's like a worm in an apple car.
No. Only as a lizard in a postal van.
Richard Scary, okay. Yeah, Richard Scary, that's the name of the gentleman. I don't know if you would have seen his work.
The name is
There's
familiar.
a cover of one of his books. Though it doesn't have the worm in the apple car, it just has the worm standing there wearing a hat and a tie and shoe. And Discord's taking a moment to post that, but
It does that
I'll look
sometimes.
for the picture in the apple car.
Ooh, hello. Seek and find. With lots of things to find.
It's very familiar, but I honestly don't know. Might be that someone else in the Discord, it came up sometime, and that's how I remember. Because I don't think it's from my childhood.
I don't recall this. I had Where's Wally? It was good enough for me. I've always wanted to do a Where's Wally style illustration, just a massive thing with hundreds of characters in it.
Where's Wooloo?
Where's Wooloo? Yeah, I did that.
Wasn't about to say you did that, Chris.
Yeah, and I got annoyed at how popular it got. Bloody notifications on Twitter, honestly. Still, by a long margin, my most popular tweet.
Well, let's see. It's Pokemon and puns, which, let's be real, a good Pokemon is a good 50% puns by volume, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Richard Scary books. I vaguely remember those from my childhood. With just animals doing things. And that's sort of what the now we've got a lizard in a mail truck. Up here.
So this is my rough
More
map
silly looking animals and cars.
of how you explore. Oh! Oh god, that's Twitter. I mean, you can look at Twitter. I mean, Mrs. made a goblin on a penny farthing.
Oh, wow.
We can show that off.
Yeah, definitely show that off. That's great.
Yeah. See? Or we could look at Worm
Wow.
with one with one shoe on the end.
Oh yeah, it's not like it has 2 feet.
True. Every time it buys a pair of shoes, it's 2 for the price of 1. It's great. Look like they're having a good time. So, is the implication that this is what is happening at the beginning of this game?
No, just a
I mean,
little
it's what it
bus.
it's what it reminded me of at the very least.
I do like how we have Banana's gorilla and his yellow banana mobile next to red motorcycle.
It's very funny that this banana mobile and then there's a jeep, a normal school bus, a motorcycle, a steam train. Wait, hold on.
I guess this is introducing kids to simple words and stuff. Red and green
Yeah,
coach.
it's a kid's book.
Yeah. But I just love the juxtaposition of red motorcycle and Banana's gorilla and his yellow banana mobile. And also whoever this friend is. And let me open the original. Yes. Yes! Very important business.
A buckdozer.
Bugdozer! Look at Bugdozer! They're having a great time.
Anyway, Chris, you were saying?
Oh yeah, we're streaming. But yes, this was just my rough sort of idea of how the game would sort of play out. You start in the tutorial caves, you get out, and then you have free access to the harbour and the cave system. Leaving the harbour via land, the viaduct, whatever, can take you to the wizards and the forest areas, or at least the early parts of that. Or you could go back to the caves and explore through there, which you find access to the outer fringes of the Golden City if you go up, or if you go down, you get into the sort of early parts of the ocean area. So just sort of on-foot exploration can get you that far.
Yeah.
And as you explore each of those, you'll unlock MacGuffins, which allow you to go into more areas, like the Floating City, the Wizard's Tower, and deeper into the forest, which the Wizard's Tower and deeper into the forest gives you information about the whole life and death thing, which allows you to unlock Limbo, and once you've done that, you get full access to the rest of the game, like the Deep Ocean, Golden City, etc. That's my general idea of how these things sort of unlock themselves. It's obviously free to nitpick, but
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
although I am slightly
as-
undermining myself in the sense of like going, oh, it's all this wibbly wobbly windy pathy wathy sort of thing, when my area is supposed to connect everything together.
I mean,
just because a road eventually connects 2 places doesn't mean that you don't run into things in between.
there's a
Like,
power
if I tried to
outage.
drive from here to Dallas, yes, there is a highway that I can get to here that will, if I drive on it, I will eventually get to Dallas. But there are multiple things between here and Dallas that I will hit first.
Like other cars.
I imagine it's like a thing of like the little roads between, you know, the harbor and the wizards, and the harbor and the forest and the caves and the gold. Those are kind of like wibbly wobblies, and there's like enemies there and such. But once you're at the place, then, you know, their viaduct's location opens up. Like, oh,
Yeah.
suddenly this thing is gone, and now you can move over the viaduct, which doesn't have that many, like, you know, encounters or villains or enemies or whatever that you have to fight, and you can just opens up like more shops and stuff. Tradesmen.
I sort of slightly reevaluated the viaduct mimic as being like Well, we would really like these two parts of the viaduct to connect in a more sufficient way. But we just have to make do with this thing that just walks between the two. So you just stand on it and it carries you.
It's a viaduct bus.
Yeah. It's the viaduct shoe puff. You could walk all the way around, or they'll carry you. Blood, blood, blood.
That's adorable.
So now there is a quest to somehow get the... I want to give them a name, but I don't know what to call them.
I don't know. The viaduct mimic.
Yeah, I'll just keep calling it a viaduct mimic. Maybe they used to be hostile, but now they're sort of tame and just sort of have fun carrying people around.
Yeah.
Ancient lore. Back when the viaducts were being used by ancient civilizations constantly or whatever. They preyed upon the people using it, but now they're just like, well, there's nothing there. We're just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a lot of things that have sort of like softened over time, because we've also got Moink and the Mimbles, where they're the same sort of species as Fame and Fortune, but they've sort of softened as the generations have gone by, where Fame and Fortune are still just full chaos gremlin, time to break reality.
Yeah.
So are you saying that there is an optional super boss out there which is an early viaduct mimic?
Yes.
It's still feral.
Absolutely.
There you go, there's a super boss of the viaduct. Part of the viaduct.
Now I'm just imagining one of the viaduct cults accidentally waking up.
Yes. The cult of the duct. They actually do something and they wake up.
Oh no.
Viaduct mimic, which they just thought was part of the viaduct for a while.
And now they're all panicking.
Yeah.
That wasn't supposed to happen. It's a viaduct.
I thought it was an abstract god. Why is it moving? I only joined this cult to make friends. So the one thing I made the reference. Oh, it's the viaduct shoe puff. And then I thought, wait, hang on, not a lot of people might not know what a shoe puff is. And then I thought, well, no, I shouldn't explain shoe puff because spoilers. And then I realized, what is there to spoil? Shoe puff is basically a big elephant in Final Fantasy X that carries you across a river. They're in one scene. They are never brought up again.
Okay, cool.
But there's just a character who, when you they operate the shoe puff, they own and whatever you would do with them.
Ride the shoe puff.
Yeah, and he goes, ride the shoe puff, and that's it. That's why people know what shoe puffs are.
Well, and
Ride
it's
the
also
shoe puff.
yeah, part of the reason why we've got like everyone knows that accent specifically, is 10 was the first one to really have voice acting.
Yes. Etc. Etc. So yeah, there's a lot of those iconic lines as the first with voice acting.
But yeah, no, I think you're safe saying what a shoe puff is, because it's not really important to. It's they're, like you said, they're just sort of there.
Yeah, they're in one scene. You never. Yeah, there isn't another one in the game as far as I'm aware. So literally just carries you across a lake. A lake that you could walk around. In fact, there are several characters who are like, well, we can't bring our chocobo on board, so we'll just have to go around.
Mm.
So it's not even essential.
I still want to see you try and draw one, though, just because it'll be funny.
Well, if we do the Final Fantasy X draw through, I will have to draw a shoe puff. That much is certain. However, we've got to do 9 first, so... What's the silliest thing in 9 I've got to draw? Don't know.
I don't know, if only because I'm not sure how we're going to rank silliness. I can think of one of the silliest singular scenes that basically every time it comes up, I just sort of sit there and giggle. But I don't want to spoil that because
I can't
it's
think off
funny.
the top of my head what that is. I mean, a lot of the early story of the game doesn't really take itself too seriously, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, but and I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna spoil it for those who don't know, though I'm sure if I mention some things, you'd figure out what scene it is. But just like with the shoe puff thing, there are some things in 9 where it's like I wouldn't consider this being a spoiler, like saying that, hey, you can ride a chocobo around.
Yeah. Honestly, a large proportion of my playing the game was riding a chocobo around. That was most of the game. As a mini game with the chocobo, and there's a lot to do with it. But anyway,
And it comes in different colors.
yay! Or does it? Comes in one color, but then, yeah. So shoe puff. Enough Final Fantasy. We'll have enough of that when I do the draw through. I also don't know how I'm going to do the draw through in the sense of like FF9 introduced these sort of like the ability to watch side cutscenes of what other characters are doing while they're off doing other things. And that's going to be a storytelling nightmare. To try and keep track of all that going on. And remember it all. Ugh. Anyway. Point being, the end of the game's a car crash. So, but this is an adventure game, not a JRPG, despite what fame and fortune might lead you to believe.
I mean, we get to attack and dethrone God. That already puts us into JRPG territory.
Well, good thing we aren't in Japan.
So I'm just looking at this little doodle up here of Christie's, where there's like a kind of like waterfall coming out of a giant mushroom. That's a cool idea.
Ooh.
I don't know if it's supposed to be a waterfall coming out of a giant mushroom, but it looks like it.
Yeah.
And I think that's neat.
I think Christie's gone. So.
Oh no. Well, I'm leaving it there. It's still neat.
Have like a little water pool at the top of each of the mushrooms.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's the intent.
There can be like big sort of in mushroom lakes on top of giant mushroom.
Ooh.
That's a cool set piece.
Yeah. That'd be super cool. We could fit that in somewhere.
Yeah. So in between the forest and the wizards.
Yeah.
Where the wizards are doing weird stuff with the forest. Right.
Or somewhere between the forest and the caves.
Yeah. Or somewhere between the forest and the ocean, linking with water. As the water cascades down the mushrooms and into the sea.
Yes.
Into the sea.
We don't have a normal waterfall. We have a mushroom waterfall.
We have mushrooms. Big old series of mushrooms.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably wouldn't be the weirdest set piece for just how an area works.
Mm-hmm.
I have to use Christie's drawings as reference.
Fair enough. Christy is very good at drawing.
You shock me. I would never have guessed. Oh wait, no, hang on. Okay, so what do we do with the information that we just got?
I don't know. I hmm. I guess it's a little bit of a thing of like how something to explore. How do these like quests, these like overarching, plot quests, how do they start out? Because I assume there's not, someone you come into a place, someone walks up to you, hey, can you fuck up these guys? Can you just murder them for me? Thanks. Like, that'd be weird, right?
Yeah, at the very least, we sort of know that when you get up to the floating city, no one in any of the factions really trust you, so it's not like any of them are just gonna immediately walk up to you and say, "Hey, can you get us this engine that we know exists?"
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, the floating city is like a more, I guess it's more straightforward path that I can see of like you align yourself with a group, or you don't, but you align yourself with a group and you do things against the other groups through side quests and stuff, and then eventually you get to a point of where they trust you enough to ask for these engines. But because the floating city is more a like versus scenario from the start, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's already got a very clear conflict set up. And you're just sort of entering into it.
Mhm.
Yeah. But with like the caves, that's a lot easier to sort of figure out what all is needed. Because at least in some of the earlier areas, like people just live there, man. They're just chilling,
Yeah.
trying to just chilling, sitting on ledges, throwing rocks at the worst archaeologist. Granted, sometimes they're throwing those rocks at high velocity with a slingshot, but details.
Yeah.
That's-
Like there's less of a clear conflict there and more like we don't want this guy here, but there's nothing really we can do, so whatever. He's
We're
gonna
just
do
going to
what
make
he's
ourselves
gonna
as
do.
annoying as possible to
Yeah.
him and hope that he just leaves.
Exactly.
So what would Fame and Fortune's like hand be in that?
I
Would the screwing over be siding with the archaeologist?
imagine, I mean, for Fame and Fortune, I mean, they have their, fingers everywhere, their hands everywhere and everything. But I do imagine, like, in my mind, they started off the excavation kind of like, giving information or giving, hey, I've heard this or this or this about this place. You might want to check it out.
I wonder if there's
Um,
anything there for them. I wonder if there's anything like
oh, that's
some
interesting.
lost like lore about their own situation that might have given them a clue.
You said that, and my immediate thought was like, I imagine like it's something like very, very mundane. It's like something they lost like thousands of years ago. It's just, finally.
I had this really good pot for making soup, and I really miss it. It was so good, really easy to clean. There it is.
There it is. I finally found it. Couldn't go searching for it myself because it's technically not mine, but you know. I mean, like, I for like lore and plot, like plot perspective, it's probably a better idea to have something, a bit more lore heavy and interesting. But
Yeah.
just the idea of they're just, they lost a pot.
Yeah.
Or they lost something just very mundane and couldn't go look for it themselves because it's technically not there, so they wouldn't be able to take it. But if someone happened to find it,
I like the idea that maybe like the worst archaeologist and Fame and Fortune have a sort of similar sort of outlook in the sense of like, well, no, we don't technically own it, but we can look after it permanently. You know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
We've got a kind of
they
kindred
definitely
attitude.
have like some kind of like that attitude. In from the archaeologist, it's probably more of the perspective of, hoity-toity. Like, who else could look after it better than I could as
Yeah.
a, old white man?
As a member of the respectable classes.
Yeah. And for Fame and Fortune, it's more like, well, we literally cannot own it. Otherwise we would, but this is the best we could come up with.
I like the idea. I like the idea that they're talking to the archaeologist and they're being very literal. No, we cannot own things. It is impossible for us to own things. And the archaeologist is taking it like, oh yes, I know exactly what you mean. I don't technically own this. This is not understanding that they're being very literal. Yes, I understand you. Taps nose.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is kind of also like, that would be like a Fame and Fortune, trickster kind of thing of like, the people who are, gonna think you're constantly, speaking in double meanings and whatever, you're gonna be straight with them because they're never gonna believe you.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. But yeah, I imagine that this, archaeological excavation has been like, it's been a thing for a while now, but locals keep fucking it up. Because they don't care. They just want the people to get out of there because, this is kind of obstructing our path to the bakery, but whatever. But yeah. And I imagine, like, that just escalates kind of the longer, you stick around. And the whole, like, finding the massive, massive blood pool, or the oil, that just kind of feeds more into, like, the, mafia plotline, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's more just, working your way up the system.
It might also depend on what you find out before you reach things. Because if you find the blood pool and all you've really been doing is interacting with the worst archaeologist in the mafia, you might just be like, okay, well, big vat of floor soups, sure. But if you've been reading in the archives and you manage to sort of find out stuff about these blood pools, that might be find the blood pool and you go, oh, okay, well, what if swim?
What if swim?
And then you end up in limbo.
Yeah, that makes sense.
God, I'm just looking at the viaduct shoe puff and thinking, what the heck does that thing eat?
I don't know. I imagine it nibbles on a forest or two.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, like, for the most part, at least Earth-wise, the only animals that get really that big are usually herbivores.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, originally, back in the day when this thing was being used by thousands and thousands of people constantly, a mimic could easily survive on commuters.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, it's very barren. They've become docile. They just sort of nibble on fringes of forest.
Oh no, my house.
They became herbivores just to survive.
Yeah, they just... They made a change in their diet, because their diet stopped being...
Sometimes it goes lie down and just, opens its mouth in the middle of the river and drinks a whole lot of water and then stands up again.
I like these big friends.
It's very cute.
It's like Snuffleupagus, but a whole lot bigger.
But it's a little bit like Chester from Don't Starve. Only rather than being a small travelling chest, it's a Goliath. Alright. So.
So.
I'm still trying to think of some fun ideas for that final boss thing with the phases.
I mean, you said something of like, fame and fortune getting elements or getting mechanics even from whatever area for that section of the boss fight.
Yeah.
So like what kind of game mechanics would we have?
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's strip it back to that question. Yeah, we've got this game, we've got all these areas, this is a game with gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
What is each area's deal?
Yeah.
In terms of gameplay. The viaduct is probably a decent amount of platforming, but also just generally travel.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can, work platforming more into, into a fight, kind of.
God, what if what if we've got like an elevator fight going on here? Essentially, like you're on the shoe puff. You're not fighting the shoe puff. You just have to fight off all of the stupid seagulls.
Oh yeah.
While it moves you from place to place.
Auto-scroller.
Yes.
Oh god, my stylus.
Because we have established that we have both a pigeon mafia, even if it's not that effective of a mafia, and seagulls that will try to steal your food while you're up on the viaduct.
Yeah.
And that actually might be more interesting. Well, maybe not more interesting, but more doable. Well, actually, it doesn't matter what's doable. We're not doing this.
We're not making this game. Don't worry, everybody. We're not actually making this. I aim that at us to assuage us of the fear of the amount of work it would take, and I also aim it at the audience to assuage them of the fear of this thing existing. Am I using the word assuage right? Yes. I could have said relieve, but...
No,
Assuage. How's assuage on the prefer scale?
It's not on the same level as prefer.
Okay. Or heretofore.
Heretofore is awful.
I think Christy's back.
Yeah.
Christy!
Yeah, they
Oh,
added a
yeah.
little person to
That's a
one of
little-
these.
So these things aren't huge, but they are in my drawer.
Yeah. There's different kind of mushrooms, you know?
And I mean, if that's a regular sized person, that's still a very big mushroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at them as a kind of fairy sort of thing. But maybe not. Maybe they are also absolutely enormous.
And I mean, we do also have the stump creatures that we never quite established what the scale and size should be for them. Would it be funnier for them to be small enough to sit on, or large enough that you stare at them and go, "Oh no"?
Again, I don't see why we have to make that choice.
It's all good.
This is a forest we're talking about. There are different sizes of tree. There would be different sizes of stump.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I like the idea of an auto scroller for the viaduct of just
This is a plods along. Plop, plop, plop. Oh god, seagulls!
mm-hmm.
And or highwaymen crawling up the legs and jumping at you.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Climbing,
easier to
basically.
climb up, like, you know, a bunch of fluff than it is to climb up a pillar.
Yeah, it's Shadow of the Colossus style.
Yeah. The creature
Only you-
doesn't notice.
Yeah, the Colossus in this particular instance is not phased.
No. This happens, you know? They're just going for a walk.
Yeah. They're just little bugs crawling up my leg.
Yeah.
As you wave around your sword.
I mean, I use that
Trying to
as
head off
an
seagulls.
example, as though there are not people out there who would hate little bugs crawling up their leg.
I mean, yeah. Sort of depends on the bug and the context.
Sorry, Christy's asking whether or not she can render my mushrooms, and I'm like, I was
You were
copying yours.
You were actively referencing them. Her mushrooms.
I was trying to copy yours.
I was just looking at all the areas of just like, what would be controls for this? And I looked at wizard nonsense, and for some reason my brain immediately just went inverted controls.
Yes. Mid-platforming.
It's not from inverted controls, just
All of those sorts of gimmicks.
just whatever the most chaotic thing is. Suddenly, you know, it's mirrored. Everything is mirrored. Suddenly you're upside down and there's gravity.
Yeah. The
Gravity
screen
goes
flips.
upside down. It's
Colors
It's
invert.
just-
Everything's just.
it's just a genuinely awful time.
There's a 3-second delay between your controls and your character moving.
No.
And then later on, there's a 3-second advance, and no one knows how that works.
No.
It's reading your mind.
Yeah. Take that, Hideo Kojima. You have to plug the controller into the other port, but you're doing it on a wireless controller, and you don't know how this works, so you have to open up menus.
How did they implement that in the computer port? Or did they just not bother?
I watched, I think Barry played Metal Gear Solid, I think, on the PS3, and they have like a virtual controller port thing in a menu on the PS3, so you can do that. I don't know how they. We played it on stream. I can't remember what we did.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Oh no, was it? Oh yeah, no. I had to switch from the controller to the keyboard and mouse.
Right,
Was
you had
that
to
it?
switch to the keyboard,
Yeah.
and it was a mess.
Yeah. Hey, look, they tried. Yeah, you whatever console you're playing Project V on, you have to get the controller of a different console.
Awful.
But pray.
We just love making
Although
this game
these
awful.
days, there's a lot of controllers that you can use for multiple systems. Like,
Yeah.
most modern controllers, except for Nintendo controllers, because Nintendo refuses to do what anyone else is doing, you can use on PC games.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Ouya.
Ouya?
Everyone likes the Ouya.
Sure.
The Ouya had potential.
I don't know what that is, Chris.
Exactly. It was sort of like an indie console.
Mm.
And it had a lot of hype around it, and then it came out with like a game and then died.
Mm.
It's such a shame. There's probably more going on than that, and I didn't know, but you know. Right.
From 2012.
Was that really 10 years ago?
You're old.
Wow. Oh,
According to
no.
Wikipedia.
Oh no, I'm old. I'm an old soggy parsnip.
You were born in the 60s.
Ah. Should be used to being old then, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know why this keeps surprising you.
Wait, what? What? Hang on, I just noticed a new thing on Discord.
What?
There's a new thing on Discord of noise suppression powered by Crisp.
What? What?
It's just next to the like disconnect button on voice connected. Noise. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you not get that? Okay, well.
Nope.
I'm not going mad, you are.
I see it
Next,
too.
my disconnect is emojis.
Noise suppression powered by Crisp.
Oh, there. What?
Yeah, enable crisp noise suppression. Make some noise like clapping your hands while speaking. Your friends will hear nothing but your beautiful voice.
I thought we already had that.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
I guess we had a
can
noise
see.
gate, I guess.
It's fine.
But this is something else? I mean, I
I
have
don't-
yet to think any of us need it, so we'll just
I
leave it
never
off.
pay attention to there. I don't know how long that's been there.
I just saw that there's noise suppression powered by Crisp, and it was a capital K, and I'm like, did I change my name in the thing?
No, you're fine.
I'm still Crisply.
Anyway, more mechanics.
Mechanics.
We have the wizards, which is everything awful.
Yeah, all of the mechanics that weren't fun in any of the other areas, we just put them in the wizard tower.
Yeah.
Oh god, that from a game perspective, like from a weird meta perspective, since the wizard tower is like academics gone wrong, and academics is usually working on things like a while before the general public has any use for them. It's like, here's all the beta features.
The beta
The wizards
tower.
are working on beta features.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm reminded back in the old days when the games were 2D. I'm reminded of Grand Theft Auto London. Because the games were originally top down. And you played through the streets and stuff like that, and they had a London one, and inexplicably London had like 10 gangs.
You know.
I
The
don't know about
famous
that.
London gangs.
But on screen, you kind of constantly had a running tally of like your reputation with each of the gangs. And that sort of reminded me of like that could be something you could do in the harbor, sort of like managing reputation with different things, and you get into different fights with different people depending on who you're working with and who you're not working with. Maybe not like 10 gangs, but we have a mafia,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I get that. That'd be fun.
Do you work with or against the pigeons? There's also the dock workers with soot and all that. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. With Ragdoll saying like the wizard tower is all the beta features, I now also imagine there's just this room in the wizard tower and it's all the art.
Concept art.
Just very method, like, here's all the concept art.
And you can explain that away. It's just like, well, a wizard went around and painted everything. But...
Yeah.
Because you do say, like, in like Dishonored, for example, like, portraits of all the characters are on the wall, and it's like, that was just concept art. That's... And it worked, and reusing it as a portrait of a character in this world, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But precisely why the wizards have, like, concept art of, you know, attack animations and, like, animatics of cutscenes and things like that.
I mean, it's the wizards. We don't ask.
It's a little spoiler wing of storyboards.
Yeah.
It's a kind of neat way of sort of implementing, like, bonus features, you know, unlockables.
Yeah.
You just get to see more of the concept tower.
The concept art. Yeah.
Right. mechanic. The ocean is probably obvious.
Yeah, it's underwater.
The water. So that means there's going to be a water phase in the Fame and Fortune.
They just suddenly, like, open up a tap somewhere. It's
Yeah.
just floods the screen, and you're like, how does that make... You know what? Whatever.
They have an ocean in a bottle. They just uncork the bottle and it starts pouring out and doesn't stop.
Or one of those Mario pipes comes up and then just
Yeah.
a bunch of water spews out of it.
Like I imagine this fight takes place in not a real place, right?
Yeah.
Like you're in some sort of void.
No, you're absolutely in whatever pocket dimension Fame and Fortune technically do not own.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like some of the fights in Kingdom Hearts where you're just sort of in this void space. And we're just sort of floating there, and there might be a floor. You're probably walking on it, but it doesn't look like you're walking on it. Or if it does look like you're walking on it, it looks like stained glass.
I mean,
Yeah, they had a thing with stained glass. At least in the early game.
Yeah.
And then Kingdom
But
Hearts.
yeah, suddenly void full of water. That definitely will be a thing.
My
Hope you have your
brain...
MacGuffin.
Yeah. My brain has been kind of on animatic mode lately, where I just want to make an animatic for Fame and Fortune.
Yeah.
And I imagine that in my brain, it's kind of latched onto like this, like, it mimics, like, you know, the game has ended, here are the credits, and then, you know, Fame and Fortune talk, and you're like, hold on, the credits are running, and then the camera like zooms out, and it turns out you're staring at like the credits rolling from like a camera that they've turned on.
Oh
like,
no.
You thought this was done, huh?
I've got one of those old-timey reels.
Yeah. You've just been
And you're just
staring at
watching
like
it
this
project.
void. This void wall. And just the credits are rolling. And then the fight, you know, monologue, dialogue, fight starts. It's just a silly idea that my brain came up with.
I mean, fame and fortune sort of run on cartoon logic, and
Yeah,
that
exactly.
is some good cartoon logic there.
Yeah. So you're just kind of supposed to think of like, oh, this is a very sudden ending, of, just very off-puttingly like, oh, suddenly the credits are running. But actually, no.
I mean, the credits are rolling, it's just that other things are happening.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Fame and Fortune don't technically own any credits in the end credits, so the game hasn't stopped for them.
Yeah, exactly.
That sort of thing.
And you are now fighting Fame and Fortune in the void.
Yeah.
And then when you beat them, the actual credits roll. That, or
Exactly.
you just hear some bells and a mysterious voice saying, "Ah, guess we have to try again."
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what?
Maybe if you do actually, like in the good ending where you do actually beat them and they're sort of, I don't know what the ending is for Fame and Fortune, frankly. But maybe they do actually get credits in the good ending.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
That's kind of a closure. That's the.
Yeah. In the ending, they have credits. In the good ending, they have credits.
Who would voice them?
Uncredited.
Yeah, I don't know, but I do think it's like probably like very cartoony, like borderline Bugs Bunny kind of vibes, you know?
Yeah.
Evil Bugs Bunny.
That's just
Well-
Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny's chaos, Bugs Bunny.
I mean, that's also these two.
They're chaotic evil.
Yeah, that's true.
Bugs Bunny's chaotic neutral.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny
Which is
only going
arguably
to fuck
scarier.
shit- But Bugs Bunny is only going to fuck shit up if you actively are fucking with his shit.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he's just going to be fucky.
Yeah.
Both literally and figuratively. Because he has done a lot of cross-dressing.
Yay.
And that has not stopped.
And it will not. Gosh darn it.
Good. Never stop, Bugs.
Yeah, there was a scene in one of the more recent Looney Tunes things where they're on, like, a plane and Bugs Bunny is wearing the sort of stereotypical stewardess outfit, and then next to him you see one of the actual stewardesses who's just wearing, like, pants and a button-up shirt, and it's like, you know that's not our uniform, right? And Bugs is just like, yeah, but I like how the heels make my legs look. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, Bugs.
It's Bugs.
That's Bugs.
Because, yeah, ideally stewardesses should not be wearing heels, because they're not really technically just there to look pretty. They're EMTs.
Mm-hmm.
They are there to make sure that everyone who gets on the plane gets off the plane alive.
Which is handy. I was just going to say purely turbulence. Like, if turbulence happens, I don't want them breaking their ankles.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
I don't know how competent anybody is with heels, but, like, turbulence is going to take you unawares anyway. Like, and you want a decent stability.
Yeah, there is that. But there is also the thing where the stewards and stewardesses are both the medical staff and the law in the sky. So they are there to assist if someone is having a cardiac arrest, and they are also there to tie you to your chair if you are going to be a pain in the ass.
They can deal with several types of arrest. I couldn't work out.
I'm not even joking about the tying to chair bit. That has happened before.
Good.
Person was being ornery. There has been at least one news article I have seen where there was a gentleman who was being very ornery, punched at least one of the stewardesses, and they just took some of those, the, like, example seatbelt buckle things that they use to show you how the seatbelt works. They raised the head.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they took some of those and just, like, buckled him to the seat.
Now that's thinking.
What you get.
You've been example arrested.
Yeah.
You've been made an example of. There we go.
Yeah, don't be that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to think that goes without saying. At least with those who attend this stream. It would be nice to think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just in general, I try to avoid being on planes because it's not a great experience. But yeah.
I have never been on a plane. So no. But I will be sure to compliment any hostesses or hosts on their lack of heels. Mechanics.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something.
I mean, it could be like a device that does, kind of a hook shot sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we could do something like that for the forest, maybe, or...
Yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking, and maybe it's just because I'm thinking Forest Temple from Zelda, but the forest feels like a place where there's a lot of, like, platforming to get places, because especially if we establish that some of these trees are huge, and there's bits of buildings stuck in them that we want to explore, having something to get us up there.
We established the player gets a glider device at some points.
Oh, yeah. What was that
We did
for?
sort of establish that, yes.
Yes, because there was a bat mechanic
There was
who made a bat glider.
Bat glider! Yes! Important, let me get the pictures.
Bat glider unrelated to Batman. Feel like that should... Not Batman property.
Look, they can't put a copyright on the word bat.
He might have tried.
Okay, that is true. Some people have tried to put copyrights on some very strange things. Like when Disney tried to put a copyright on literally the name of a holiday.
Yeah.
And they were told you can't do that.
Yeah. I think they tried to put a trademark on it rather than a copyright, but still, yeah. So
there was also
one of those things. There was one one person in romance novel world where they tried to trademark the word cocky.
What?
And if you know anything about romance novels, you might know why that's not gonna fly with romance novels. Cocky.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you said coffee.
I mean, that also wouldn't fly, I guess. Was also like a couple of years ago when the Fine Brothers on YouTube tried to copyright or trademark word react.
Yeah. React.
That whole debacle. That whole mess.
I think some of these things could be avoided if just some small creators every so often would just talk with a lawyer.
I was going to say the opposite. I think these things can be avoided by more small creators, like whenever a lawyer comes up to them, get the newspaper out and go, no.
No.
But I guess it depends on the circumstances, I guess. Maybe
yeah, it
it's
depends on
ego
the
that fuels
circumstance.
it.
I know with the novel, with the romance novel one, though, that was the author themselves pushing forward that, and everyone else was just sort of looking at it going, what the heck?
I mean, I guess it would just help if people had more, common sense in the fact that, hey, maybe if something is a common word, you shouldn't try to copyright or trademark it. Seems like a bad idea just all around,
Yeah.
Well, and what made it even worse is that one part of the cocky copyright included a title thing with it. Now, granted, even if you have something that's a common word, if the thing that you are trademarking is like a logo, that's a little different because you're not just trademarking the word, you're trademarking the whole logo. But the logo was made with a font where one of the stipulations of using the font was to literally not do that.
Yeah.
Naturally.
People need to be much more careful with fonts than they are. Fonts are important, guys. And it's bloody hard work to make.
Yeah.
I know because I've tried and failed.
But yeah, we have the little bat glider down for possible
So what was that?
mechanic.
I'm sure we talked about what it was for.
Probably.
Should we watch?
The idea initially was travel around with the Golden City and Floating City, but I mean, but also gliders are usually only good for going down, not up. Yeah. So if we're wanting to go up in the trees, we still need some sort of grappling hook type thing to get up.
Oh, that could be fun. Sort of less of a hook shot and more a kind of a thing that you can fire to the top of the tree to then climb. And so you have sort of a rappelling sort of...
It's a little bit of a double... a double thing. Where you get one thing in one area and one thing in another area, and that combines into, an actually useful thing.
Rich, are you suggesting we shoot the character out of a cannon inside of the forest to get up to places?
You get a cannon from Fame and Fortune. Cannon. Yeah, but yeah, I like this idea of this hook shot kind of grappling thing that just propels you forward into that you can get up and then glide to go into glide mode. It's a bit of what's the game? I've only ever seen this game being played, so that's not a good reference to start out with. It's this.
I'm just imagining now with this drawing that Chris has made, you've got a guy in full plate mail, and then you've got the George of the Jungle stuff going on. Ah!
Yeah, there's a lot of clattering noises happening.
I was okay. Just Cause, I think.
Oh yeah.
Where you
it's got
have
gliding
like a
thing.
little grappling wrist thingamajig, and then you also have like a wingsuit. And the mechanics of that are all sorts of fucked up, naturally.
Oh
but
yeah,
nobody
no,
gives a shit because it's fun.
Yeah, you can absolutely, the combination of a grappling hook and glide suit in this game will absolutely break it.
Yeah.
There was no QA done on that at all.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea that there are
Look.
like platforms in the trees and you have to sort of swing and glide, and it's an interesting sort of combo. Maybe. Okay, yeah. Because early on in the game, the idea was like, you got the harbour and you got the caves, then you can explore some stuff, but you don't get everything. But then later you can get deeper into the forest when you get whatever you need to get deeper into the forest. Maybe this is that sort of combo of the grapple and the fly, and that allows you to get over some barriers or what have you.
Yeah, that sort of makes sense, because it's probably a, like... So, when you're traveling in a forest, a lot of forest is sort of this, like, open area, like, especially underneath the trees. So it's probably the case that around the edges, except for, like, the very edge where there's brush and whatnot, you could explore pretty readily, you just can't go up. But after a certain point, you've got a bunch of weird growth stuff where, like, it's still wild, and it's like, right, I can't go through this, I have to sort of go up and over. And that's what you need the grappling hook wingsuit thing for. And then you can go over that to go further in, but also go up higher into the trees and meet things. And somewhere along the line, you run into the forest witch.
And that happens.
We've brought back the glider. We've done something. Connected the dots.
Connecting dots. So what is the... yeah, we get the glider from the bats. Where do we get the grappling hook from? Like, how can we tie that? Because it could be like... If it's a forest thing, maybe it's like I've seen in documentaries like little flowers that fire their seeds out at extraordinarily like high speeds to try and spread them as far as physically possible. I'm wondering if you could have like the grappling hook itself is just like a flower that just sort of fires vine out with a sort of sticky membrane at the top so it catches onto the top of a tree or something.
Yeah. I mean, it makes just as much sense as, a grappling hook.
Yeah, I was trying to think of
or anything like this.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something that was less mechanical, that might sort of fit more in this world.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it also just
reminded of the vine plants in Okami that you can use to like launch yourself into the sky.
Yeah, I haven't played that game, so I don't know.
Okami that's one of those games that's on my list of like, I've seen screenshots and it looks cool, and people say that it's kind of neat, but I've at no point been told what it is.
It's a pun in 2 languages.
Oh,
Okay.
that's cool. I thought it was a game.
Well, yes, but
Sorry.
the name of the game is a pun in 2 languages. So, Okami, depending on how you are spelling it with kanji, can mean either great god or white wolf. And in the game Okami, you are Amaterasu in the form of a wolf who is going around Japan trying to purge out the evil and the demons that have sort of sprung up, thanks in part to demons like Yamato Ororochi, the 8-head serpent. And there's stories involved, and there's characters that you help out, and stuff like that. And the main mechanic for traversal, because it is an exploratory game, are these things called brush techniques, where basically you use your magic to interact and change the world in various ways. And as you explore through, Okami, or Amaterasu, I should say, gets more and more brush techniques, so you can do more things. One of those techniques is called Vine, where you can sort of latch on to these tiny plants and have them grow out a vine and attach it to you, and they sort of pull you in towards themselves. So you can essentially grapple hook around.
And there's me thinking it was the plural of Akamas. Anyway, here's the rough appearance of my grappling hook.
Yay. A little blob.
Just carrying around a little blob. This is not a small thing. The character's constantly running around carrying it like a big bomb.
Yeah.
Blup, blup, blup.
Plop, plop, plop.
God, that would be so awkward. Especially if you run into any of the enemies in the area, like with the barrier boars, and you still just got this huge seed pot thing.
You cannot use your weapon while you are using this thing.
Yeah. You can shoot it at an enemy. Just,
Yeah.
get you towards them. I
Yeah,
don't know why
exactly.
you'd want that.
The consequence
you
will
don't
either
know.
be you drag it closer to you or you closer to it.
Yeah.
Neither of those are probably particularly what you want.
No, because you don't have a weapon out.
I mean, to be fair, that is something you can do with the grappling hook and or hook shot in The Legend of Zelda's.
Mm-hmm.
Pull yourself to enemies or pull enemies to you.
Yeah. Only now it isn't useful at all.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, we got that. Floating city. Does that have a gimmick? I mean, it's got technology, right? We should probably lean into that.
Gun.
Gun. The mechanic here is gun. All fights are trivialized because you have gun.
Yeah. Only for this area, though.
Yeah, for some strange reason, it doesn't work when you leave.
It's magic gun.
It's operating on the wireless power that the floating city has.
It's a Wi-Fi gun.
Oh my god.
Wi-Fi?
Why?
Kinda works.
Yeah. That's...
Oh, but in all seriousness, it probably has something to do with
Hang
the
on.
crystal things that they're using to power stuff.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to go back. You said something illegal. You started a sentence during the stream with "in all seriousness," which is not allowed.
Okay, in no seriousness, then it's probably got something to do with some of the crystals and tech that they have there.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe you need to use the crystals to, like, power some of the machines, but, like... So it's one of those things, like, the place is losing power, so you have to, like, take... You've got, like, a power cell type thing, and you can only turn on some of the machines at once. It's like...
Yeah.
It's like being in a house, but the circuit breaker sucks, so you need to figure out, right, what can I plug in to this wall and run? And then when I'm done with it, I need to unplug it and plug something else in, because I can't have all of these plugged in at once, otherwise everything shuts down.
Yeah.
And then during the corresponding fame and fortune fight, the machines that you're turning on and off are just these weird eldritch things that just do really strange. I'm thinking almost like kind of. You ever seen Silent Hill Downpour?
No.
Well, the Silent Hill has, the other world or whatever. Just the everything's bad, but it's like our world, but everything's. In Downpour, there's a lot of like machinery and stuff like that in the other world, and a lot of big cranks to turn, and they do weird things. And I just imagine it's like that in the fight. Just like really weird machine. You got to work out what they do. You don't know. Fame and fortune just magic them into existence. They had some, machino grow powder. Just add water, and it was a Looney Tunes thing, wasn't it? I remember vague memories from my childhood of the Looney Tunes. Oh, was it The Martian? He had like... Oh, I can't remember. No, I'm gonna look this up.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there was at least one Looney Tunes thing where someone just poured out an ocean.
Instant Martians, just add water. I remember this. That's what a Martian looks like as well, apparently. It's just the kind of bird. Anyway, I imagine it's like that, but with big machines. Anyway, this the whole side tangent was not useful. Because we can probably come up with something better than that. For the fight, anyway. The idea of managing power and different machines interacting in different ways and having to solve how to get from A to B, and that's all cool.
Yeah. So what are we missing then? Limbo, I guess?
Is Limbo really a gameplay area?
I don't know. It's more just boss fight area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mostly like weird plot device area. Like, we got some gameplay in there, but it's mostly fights. Because you gotta fight Mr. Tubbs. And depending on how things go, you might fight life and death.
Yeah.
If you're done real bad. Yeah, so I think that's just story and or additional boss fights. Golden City? I guess we don't really have anything for that.
Yeah. I don't know what the Golden City mechanic would be like, because every time I think of anything in the Golden City, I just think, oh, it's like Dark Souls.
I'm wondering if
The
it's something
gimmick
to
is
do
you
with
have to
like
beat Dark Souls first.
You have to go to Anor Londo, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're in the Golden City now.
Once you've beaten Ornstein and Smo, then you can pass into Golden City. Every time you want to enter the Golden City, you have to like feed the game a save file of Dark Souls that is in the Guinevere's bedchamber, and then it will delete that save file.
This is some Nier Automata shit going on here.
But I feel like it would have something to do with armor, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, as far as getting around is concerned, you probably need to find different kinds of armor to get into places, because, like, they've got a ranking system.
Yeah.
And you must be this fancy to enter.
I like that.
Just imagine that for the Fame and Fortune fight, it's just suddenly, here's a dress-up game.
I mean, probably, yeah.
Just match the outfit.
Those two could make that sinister. That's deadly dress-up game. It can work.
It's just the worst Pokemon competition. It's just the worst beauty contest.
I mean, you say that. Like, suddenly you're thrown into your inventory and just blinks with put on an outfit, and then it gets to like this little comical scene where they're judging you with like the little boards of like with the points. That's it. That's the Golden City section. It's like this big deal, and then in the game, and then in the fight, it's just that.
I mean, considering how pompous a lot of the uppers up in the Golden City are, that's sort of... that weirdly works. Because it's like, they don't care. It's like, yeah, these guys are idiots.
That is Fame and Fortune's, like, satire phase.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if we are going for this is the surrealist thing you will have ever seen... yeah, in the middle of a fight, suddenly going, this is now a fashion competition would be just very weird.
But I like the idea also that the more, like, the further away you are from the outfit they want, you actually take damage. Like...
Oh yeah, it does have, you know, actual repercussions if you don't get what they want.
This is a fashion tax. Like...
Oh, it's like those matching games where they, like, oh god, what's it called? The thing with the 4 dots and the color and position.
What?
Crap, what's it called?
Sorry, now I'm just thinking of an episode of Star Trek. Which is weird, because I don't watch Star Trek.
Oh. What? 4 dots and color? My mind went to Twister, but that doesn't sound right at all.
Yes, Twister phase. Absolutely.
I don't think that's what you meant, but that's what my brain...
No,
I don't care, it's in there.
Not.
That's part of the default fight.
It's a little puzzle game you play where you've got sort of draw it out. Hopefully.
Illustrate.
You've got like a little thing that you can stick little balls in.
Oh, Mastermind.
Mastermind, there we go.
Yeah, you got to guess the combination of colors.
Supplying Minesweeper, and it's like, I know that's not me.
Which is kind of... Do you know, I've only just made this connection. It's basically what Wordle is, right? Like, Wordle is word mastermind.
Yeah.
you get told whether the letters are in the right position or whether there's the right letter but wrong place.
Yeah, but at least with Wordle, it's due to the structure of language, you have a limited number of options.
Yeah. This is
And
literally
I mean,
just
granted, you have a
default.
limited number of options in Mastermind as well, but that's because you only have so many colors and positions.
Yeah, it's X to the 4.
But with Wordle, you've got some things where it's like, okay, structurally, this is not going to make any sense. Like, you're not going to have 4 of the same letter. Or 3 of the same letter, even. And if you have 2 of the same letter, there's only certain letters where that's likely to be the case.
I'd love for Wordle to just be one day just
Ah!
ah.
A-A-A-A-H.
Just as an April Fool's or something.
April Fool. I was trying to think of a word that has like 4.
Having the dress-up game be a Mastermind type thing where in the city you've got like different articles of clothing of different kinds of ranks, and it's like, right, so they want you to wear one high tier item on your chest. They notice that you put a high tier item on your head, so right level, wrong position.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the slot is the actual equipment slot, and that's interesting.
God, Fame and Fortune's boss fight is the worst.
Again, this is only if you've engaged in the sort of bad part of the story. If you've
like Fame and Fortune's fight is as bad as you make it.
Yeah,
literally. Like, if you have all these phases, it's absolutely just genuinely the worst thing that's ever happened in a video game.
Nobody speed runs bad percent.
No. I mean, there will be one person.
Well, yeah, of course there will be.
They do it for the sake of
And it takes
speedrun
like
marathons for
3
charity.
days.
Yeah, because I bet one of these phases is like incredibly RNG heavy, and it would 15 hours into this playthrough, you might lose the run because the mastermind combination was really, really tricky.
It's like there is a bad percent speed run, but it's like 24 hours or something stupid like that. Like
two
does
recorded
that still
times.
qualify as a speed run?
Oh yeah. What is the longest speedrun?
The longest one that I know of is Breath of the Wild 100%, which lasts multiple days.
Yeah, it had to be 100% one, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think too many people do the 100% one, though I do know there was one point where there was like a huge dip in the time for the first place person, because the previous first place person accidentally fell asleep in the middle of the run. And so the next person managed to avoid that by not falling asleep.
What strats?
Absolute strats.
Top tips for speedrunners.
People don't usually
stay
do
awake.
That.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because 100%, if I recall correctly, involves like all of the Koroks, which if you play the game casually, there is no reason to collect all of the Koroks. Literally, there is no reason to collect all of them. The only thing you get is a poop rabbit.
But 100%.
It's like the Korok seeds are used to increase the capacity for your storage of like weapons and stuff. But there's more Korok seeds in the game than what you need to maximize all of your inventory slots.
Oh yeah. That was something I found with Elden Ring. Is there are seeds that you can get in that upgrade the number of heal flasks you can have, and I was always sort of like, oh, get all the things so you could beat these bosses, secret bosses, and get the seeds. And then by the end of the game, I had like 10 that I didn't use because I was at the max. Like, oh.
Yeah. And so,
well,
yeah,
all right,
like,
then.
if you're playing casually, even if you're going out of your way to find Korok seeds, there's no reason to get all of them. Though technically, if you get all of them the Korok that expands your inventory will give you an item, but it's entirely useless.
Well, it's something.
Yeah.
Elden Ring gave me nothing.
The one we've missed?
One we've missed?
An area mechanic thingamajig.
Do we have one for the caves?
That's the glider.
No, true.
Help you fly from stalagmite to stalagmite.
And then in the forest, it's the weird hookshot thing.
Yeah.
And in the ocean, we've got whatever it is you need to breathe.
Swimming.
Mm-hmm. Swimming.
Combination of snorkel and flippers and whatever Vinny needs. Yep. First hookshot wizards, don't even go there. Literally don't go there, it's horrible to play. Floating City has machines. So it's more sort of level stuff than a MacGuffin you hold. Well, the batteries maybe out of something. Harbour has, I guess the harbour isn't really like a combat heavy place, and if it is, it's with gangsters or pigeons. Or the occasional rat that levels up with you.
Yep, occasional rat singular.
Yes, there is only one rat in the city. But boy, by the end of the game, they have a reputation. They become the new mayor.
Oh god. That was such a funny thing. Like, if you don't beat this rat up, and you do become a certain level, this rat just becomes mayor.
I like the idea that the hint is like, oh, if this thing will get more powerful, and you assume physical power, but it includes political power as well.
Beat it up too much, and it's just going to become God.
Then that becomes a phase in the Fame and Fortune.
Fame and Fortune point suddenly you're fighting this rat.
Is that the harbour's phase?
Yeah, they just bring this rat into
they just bring the rat along.
That's stupid, but also so is most of the rest of this game.
Yes.
I mean, also just in general, so is Fame of Fortune's fight. It's entirely made out of stupid and cartoon logic.
And then the wizards, it's just random beta nonsense. That's probably where things start to really fall apart.
It's literally a glitched fight.
Yeah.
Like, it is possible, just. Now that's what makes the bad percent speedrun. The game could just crash.
Yeah. God.
15 hours in, there's a 10% chance for the game not to crash.
And you have to do the fight all over again.
Oh no, in order to get the bad percent, you can't save.
Oh no. Awful.
Truly awful.
Truly awful.
Oh yeah, should I spin some wheels? I don't know if we need them anymore.
I mean, we can still spin some wheels, you know.
Still spin the wheels.
Maybe something fun will come out of it.
Probably not. Guess what?
What?
So no. And so no. Nope. Another wheel.
Playing with the transition.
Yep.
I'm way too entertained by
toy.
this. Look. it's rare that I discover something new in OBS. I don't think it's new. I think it's been I seem to recall looking at that thing and not actually thinking anything while looking at it. And just inexplicably the other day I was like, hang on. That's the thing. Anyway, Sven!
What does this button do?
We moved one along. And we have items. So, Chib has the viaduct, so you need to know what the big viaduct Shoepuff eats.
I mean, we established it's trees.
True, yeah. Dark has caves. Christy has floating city. Ragdoll has harbor. Clamps, wizards, Lewis, abyss, Kiro, golden city. Oobs, forest. Everyone can do limbo. All the items in limbo. Everybody can contribute to that. And I have the world, which I'm pretty sure I had 2 weeks ago. So, I guess this is the first spin of the third time round. So we've reset all the possibilities. So yeah. So yeah, items if you're interested in.
We'll see.
If not, we can go back to thinking about the plot again.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we start doing like the draw through thing, just sort of from the start. Let's doodle our way through, which is difficult for a non-linear game, but.
I mean, we can at least draw like major ideas as they come up, like with the understanding that some of these things may not appear in a particular playthrough.
Yeah. It's like best/worst case scenario playthrough kind of thing.
And it's up to you to judge which is which.
It's definitely, the one where you have to find fame and fortune, like in the worst fight on Earth. Just the worst cartoon fight with just a dress-up contest in the middle of it.
And you're just sitting there going, why is this a thing?
Because fame and fortune exists, and they don't think the Golden City people are particularly, interesting.
They're not worth taking anything from. Let's just take a piss.
No.
That's what they'll take. They'll take the piss.
Yeah. I mean, that is a fame and fortune thing of like, these people think they're very important. Therefore, we don't.
Yeah.
They are but ants.
Yeah.
Scuttling over they're hermit crabs, basically.
Yeah.
Which allows Chibi's very good hermit crab art to be metaphorical. As though it wasn't already.
I mean, it already kind of was, I think.
Yeah. That was the point, but...
But even more so.
Cute.
Just a little guy.
Also very good tarnishing colours on the map.
Yeah.
Good art. Yeah. Should we leave it there?
Yeah, I think
we got some structure out of that.
We did stuff.
We did stuff.
We came up with an entire new mechanic. Multiple, I think.
We came up with an entire new mechanic called the dress-up game.
That was the most important thing from the stream.
Yeah. I should probably actually... Because we've got the gallery, and it does have the capacity to hold text.
Yeah.
I should probably start writing up some of these ideas as text.
Probably.
And including them there, because otherwise we're going to have to watch a 2-hour VOD to remind ourselves of the things that we've said.
Yeah, I had planned on summarizing some of the things we had said in the Discord last week, and then I ran into the tech issues that took me hours upon hours to try and fix.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just on a much simpler note, I'm not going to expect anybody to put in that amount of effort. If you want to, that's fine, but I'm certainly not going to expect it. You know, that's the kind of wasted effort that I do. So that's my waste of time. I say I do. I'm not, literally, this conversation is about the fact that I'm not doing it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming along.
Yeah, fun times.
Fun times. Getting some structure here. And
Yeah.
is that a good thing? Who knows?
Less tangents.
Maybe, sort of. We started off strong, but then as the stream went on, we started actually focusing, and that's not good. So I'll be back. Well, it says here I'll be back Tuesday. Might be back Tuesday, but I might also be back tomorrow. Because we didn't have a stream on Wednesday, and I want to make up for it. So I might do a music stream tomorrow. It depends if anybody else is there. I don't know if Chibi and Dark want to do Tem stuff, or if Ragdoll's going to be streaming, or I don't know. But if no one else is doing anything, I may do a little music stream just for fun.
I can confirm I will not be streaming on Monday on account of the fact that these streams happen. The regular stream times start at like 1 p.m. for me.
Ah, right. At 1 p.m. on a Monday, you're probably doing something, right?
Yes.
Imagine that.
Wholly understandable.
I mean, we're coming up to a fall break soon, and I might use that to stream something, or I might use that to catch up on the things that I didn't do because I was trying to revive my computer.
Choices. But yeah, so I may do a stream on Monday if nobody else is doing anything tomorrow. But then after that, Tuesday, spooky games. Even though we have already started spooky games yesterday, but
More
spooky
spooks.
games. More spooks. I had drawn a picture
Single
of
player spooks.
Single players. Wow, what's more spookier than being on your own? I quite like being on my own.
I mean, that would make that island a different game.
Oh yeah.
If you play that on your own.
But
I mean, at the very least, it would make it easier to fit into cars.
it would.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to sit in the tire seat though. I mean, you'd be able to, but you wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah. You'd actually have to drive instead of relying on Dart. And the driving in that game is genuinely awful.
It's interesting.
I mean, it would be fine, but there's stuff on the roads everywhere.
Oh, that's the point. I meant to go back and clip the stop sign. That was great.
That was wonderful.
But yes. Thanks for coming along. Stream probably maybe tomorrow. Definitely Tuesday. There's a little picture of Malachi as a vampire. As a taster. There is a reason I've drawn that. You will find out why. Teaser. Yeah, and then we continue. Well, actually, Wednesday. This says Wednesday's creative stuff there. We're gonna be doing spook games Tuesday and Wednesday, so that we can do lots.
Ooh, all spookums.
Yeah.
All spookums and a lot of jank.
Much jank, many jank.
All jank. Anyway.
Anyway, bye.
Bye.
Bye.